What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Saturday morning edition of The Squeeze. I am your host, Tyler Connium. Big weekend. We are into wildcard weekend. We're here in the NFL playoffs. This is sort of the betting dream now for the next month or so until the Super Bowl. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. I did just want to mention a reminder that this podcast, video, whatever you want to call it, is available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So if it's easier to listen to this quickly on audio, you can find those links in the bio or in the description. And if you're liking what we're doing here, tell a friend, share it around because we're doing well. We had another winning day yesterday. Because we've been doing so well, I did 4 bets instead of the normal 3. We went 3-1 on those bets and up a full 2 units. Oilers won 7-1 in regulation, so they hit the over by themselves. So we got the over there. We hit that, and we had under between the Penguins and the Winnipeg Jets. So 3-1 in the NHL, or sorry, 3-0 in the NHL last night. And then we had the Jazz minus 5.5. They only won by 4, so that was the one bet we did lose. But a 3-1 night, up 2 units. We're up 11 units on the year so far. So share it around if you're enjoying what we're doing here, if you're fading or following. Maybe having said that, I've jinxed myself a little bit. I don't know, but we're doing well. And when you're doing well, you feel good, and it makes it all the more fun. So let's get into today's card. There is so many different things I wanted to do or to talk about. I didn't want to make this a 20-minute video with 10 picks and sort of blow the whole thing up. So I still do have 3 picks. One thing that is interesting that you can consider doing on the side here is a fun little parlay in the NFL. Now, I'm just going to go to, I'll do DraftKings to make it easy. If you were to take the San Francisco 49ers, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cincinnati Bengals, if you do all 3 of those on the money line as a parlay, it's minus 154. That's not a bad price. When you look at the 49ers are going to beat the Seahawks, I think that's fairly definitive. Miami Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, I don't know how they would beat the Bills. And then you have the Bengals playing a Ravens team that doesn't have Lamar Jackson. But what's interesting is the way it's spaced out is the game that I feel like would be the biggest question mark is still the Baltimore Ravens. They play Sunday night at 8 o'clock. So if you win the first 2 legs of this, you can get the Baltimore Ravens at plus 360, and you can play back off of that. And you can hedge that, and you can win money either way. So as long as the 49ers and the Bills win, you're kind of playing with a little bit of free money going into the Baltimore-Cincinnati game. I'm doing that. I'm on that. I don't want to make that official. 3-leg parlays in the playoffs are tough, but I'm doing it. I would recommend that you do that. So again, that's the 49ers, Bills, Bengals, all money line. Hope for the first 2 and then play back. Obviously, if Seattle wins this game, it blows it all up, and it is still a minus 154, which is a lot of juice to pay, but I think that it is likely for that to happen. So let's get into the 3 picks today. We're going to start in the National Basketball Association. We're going to start back in Utah. They screwed us yesterday, so let's bet against them today. I'm wearing the Allen Iverson Roots of Fight. We're going with the Philadelphia 76ers in this game to cover the spread. It was minus 4.5 last night at plus 100. At ScoreBet, it's now minus 110, so the line has moved in our favor a little bit. Philadelphia comes into this 25-16. The Utah Jazz are 22-23. Jazz are 14-7 at home, while the 76ers are 8-9 on the road. But again, Utah just played last night. There was a hard-fought 112-108 win against Orlando. Philly last played 2 nights ago. They actually lost to Oklahoma City. Lost pretty big, actually, but I'd won the 2 previous to that. So I look for Philadelphia to bounce back here. This is the start of a fairly lengthy road trip. They're going to LA, and then they're playing the Clippers, and then they're at Portland. I like teams when they're sort of kick-starting the road trip. They've got a little bit of energy. They've spent some time on the road with each other. I like that to kick-start their road trip. When you look at Philly, they are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 Saturday games. The over's also gone 10-1 in their last 11, so over's not a bad play as well. And when you look at when they face each other, 76ers are 8-3 ATS in their last 11 meetings. They're only dealing with a questionable Tobias Harris injury, where the Utah Jazz do have quite a few injuries. Olenek is questionable. Spooky is questionable, so we'll see. I like Philly to come in, catch the Jazz on the second half of a back-to-back, win this game by 5 or more points, so that's minus 4.5. Now, let's shift to the NFL. I've got a game and a player prop. We will start with today. The earlier game is Seattle at San Francisco, and we're going to start this with a player prop, okay? I like George Kittle over 44.5 receiving yards. This is minus 110 at FanDuel. When you look at George Kittle, he had a bit of an interesting season. I know this well because my wife has him on her fantasy team, so I got to hear about him each and every week. He started a little bit slow. He did finish a little bit slow, but he is getting the receptions. So his last 2 games to close out the season, he had 4 receptions against Arizona, 4 receptions against the Raiders, but he only had 29 and 23 yards. And you go previous to that, he had 120 against Washington, 93 against Seattle, which is the key because that's who they're playing today, is the Seattle Seahawks, who were the worst team against the tight ends on the season. When you look at their stats, TJ Hawkinson put up 179 yards, Kelce 113. The game that Kittle played, he had 4 receptions for 93 yards. Conklin put up 80, Gerald Everett 63, Zach Ertz 110 in 2 games. They give up a ton of points to the tight ends, and now that you've got Brock Purdy behind center, there's going to be a lot of sort of dink and dump little passes, I think, especially in the playoffs. I actually look for George Kittle could get this over in the first half, as they're just trying to get their game established between the run game and these short little passes against Seattle. George Kittle is destined to have a big game. He's also had when you look at touchdowns, 2, 1, 2, 2. He's got 7 touchdowns in his last 4 games. That's not a bad prop either. But I look for them to establish the pass early with Purdy, and I look for that ball to be going to George Kittle against a team that cannot defend the tight end. So we're going to take George Kittle over 44.5 receiving yards, minus 110 at FanDuel. Now, the last game we've got today is the night game. It's the Chargers at the Jaguars. This is probably my most anticipated game to watch of the entire weekend. And I was going back and forth. I want Jacksonville to win, and I think that's why I was leaning that way. But I'm going to pick the Chargers minus 2. That's minus 109 at North Star. So essentially a coin flip for them to win by a field goal. And when you look at the numbers, they're 10-7 on the season, 5-4 on the road. The Jaguars come into this 9-8 on the season, 5-2 at home. This is going to be a pick 'em. I mean, the Jaguars are won their last 5 games. They won all 5. They beat Tennessee 2016. They won at Houston, at the Jets. They beat Dallas and then Tennessee again. Not the greatest competition, though. Tennessee completely sputtered towards the finish line. Houston's garbage. Jets finished like garbage. A good win against Dallas, certainly. I'll give them respect for that. When you look at the Chargers, they lost to Denver. Kind of inexcusable. They beat the Rams, they beat Indy, they beat Tennessee, they beat Miami. So you look at that, and it's like neither of them really played the greatest of competition. When you look at the Chargers, they were 4-0-1 ATS in their last 5. They were 5-0-1 ATS in their last 6 when accumulating over 250 yards passing. The Jaguars 0-4 ATS in their last 4 after accumulating less than 250 yards passing. Chargers are 5-0 ATS the last 5 times they've gone to Jacksonville. They're 9-1 ATS the last 10 times they've met. And the favorite is 8-3 ATS in the last 11 meetings. Neither of the quarterbacks have a ton of experience, and this is sort of almost like a historical bet. Like, until the Jags do something, they can't really be trusted. I think that the Chargers do have a better offense. Coaching might be an issue, but I think the Chargers just have enough to get it done, and I trust them more than I trust Jacksonville. All the pressure's on the Jaguars. They're at home. They haven't won a home playoff game in God knows how long. I'm going to roll with the better team on the regular season. I'm going to roll with Herbert, and Austin Eckler, I think, is going to be able to get it done as well. So this is a pick 'em. This is a spot where I'm not going to fault you if you take the Jags on the money line. I'm not going to fault you for rolling with me. This is half gut, looking at the numbers. And trust me, I want the Jags to win, but I think the Chargers will take this. A road team has to win this weekend. And who else is it going to be? Probably Tampa. It'll be interesting to see. But is that game? Game's in Tampa. So a road team has to win this weekend, and it's not going to be the Dolphins. It might be the Giants, but I like it to be the Chargers tonight. So to run back down this card, let's keep the good feelings rolling. I like Philadelphia 76ers minus 4.5 or plus 100 at score bet. I like George Kittle to have over 44.5 receiving yards for minus 110 at FanDuel. And the Los Angeles Chargers minus 2 at minus 109 at North Star. Drop a comment if you're fading or following. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Tyler Connium for more picks and props throughout the day. We did that yesterday, and we ended up hitting the Pelicans, lost on the Knicks, so it's kind of been 50-50, but feel free to do that. As mentioned, audio versions available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Big weekend. Let's have some fun. Let's talk some sports. Have a good one.